Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, that sounds good. Welcome to meeting whatever number it is, and it's September. We're starting up again, and we got Rick Cartwright presenting to us today about health applications. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know about you, but as I've gotten a little bit older, I discovered that I need to be paying attention to some things I wasn't paying attention to. So I know it will be profitable. So with that said, let me get the agenda up here. There we go. Okay, so meeting number 290. Wow. Should we do something special when we hit 300?
Yeah.
What do you think? Beer and rocks? Huh?
Yeah.
Give everybody $1,000.
$3.
Don't look at me.
Okay, she says no. Okay, so we just did the morning welcome. We're going to go, you may have noticed that we've got a slightly different arrangement today than we normally have. So there's a wedding that's going to occur in the sanctuary at 12 o'clock, if I remember correctly. And they're having a reception in here at 2. But my intention is to end the meeting in an expeditious fashion and be out of here before they come in to finish their setup, to give them a little extra time for their stuff. Okay, news. We had the Apple event this week where they announced a whole bunch of stuff. Main thing was that they let us know when they were going to be releasing the new version of iOS and iPad OS. Notice that I separated those two. iOS was an abbreviation that stood for iPhone OS. And when they came out with the iPad, okay, they just put that operating system on it. Because basically the iPad was an iPhone with a bigger screen.
And no phone.
And no phone, right. But you had cellular in some of them. Okay. Well, now that they've added even more capabilities to the iPad, so many of you have iPad Pros that are the much larger screen. Some of you have iPad Minis. Some of you have iPad, the regular ones, the 10-inch screen. Now they've got with the pencils and all the other application of, not application, but hardware that you can put on these things. You really do have significant hardware differences between the iPhones and the iPads. So they're going to have a separate operating system for those iPads. And that's why you have iPad OS. You also have an operating system for the watches, iWatch OS. You have an operating system for the Apple TVs, which is Apple TV OS. Apple OS, Apple TV OS. And then you've got Mac OS, which is the operating system for the Macintosh computers, the Mac Minis, the iMacs, and the new Mac Pro, and the other older Mac, the other ones that are there. There's some special devices the public doesn't get that also run that operating system. Yes, there's stuff they give the government. There are special Apple devices. Doesn't matter. So in any case, they announced that that would be coming out in end of September, if I remember correctly. They also came out with some new products in Apple Arcade, which is basically you're paying them $5 a month and you've got unlimited access to all these games. Okay. There's another service which is okay. How many of you are familiar with Netflix? Okay. Hulu. Okay. Sling. HBO. Okay, all that stuff. Apple's getting in the game. So they're going to be paying money for people to produce exclusive movies and TV shows for their channel. Okay. And because of that, one of their directors on their board, the CEO of Disney, was asked to resign from the board because there would be a definite conflict of interest since they are now competitors, because Disney announced that they're going to do the same thing. So lots of interesting things going on in that whole field. Let's see, Rick, what else did I miss? I did watches,
Even the
arcade.
Apple Card.
Oh, Apple Card. Apple Card. Don't leave home without it. Their own credit card that you can use for all sorts of stuff.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah, I'll pass it around in the breaks. You can't get the numbers up.
Okay, remember, as he passes it around,
You may not get it back.
Swipe it on your phone.
yeah, you'll be good.
It's made out of titanium.
I actually know someone who scratched the paint on it, and so they sandblasted it, appropriately taping off the pieces you don't want to sandblast. And so it looks like it's just bare metal, etc.
It's 10% aluminum, 90%.
Okay. And as some of you will know, titanium is not an easy material to work with. It has some very wonderful capabilities, but in terms of metallurgy and being able to machine it, it's got some problems. So that's why you make alloys out of it. Okay, enough of the metallurgy, let's get back to computers. Does anybody else have any other news that they want to add, or did I miss anything with the Apple announcements? Everyone's going
New
twice.
iPhone 11. New iPhone 11.
Oh, thank you, Dave. iPhone Pro 11 and iPhone 11. And the Pro has got 3 cameras on the back, and the 11 only has 2 cameras on the back. And it's wonderful, right? Just
I will let you know.
okay. So you already ordered one? Okay. So we'll find out from Rick later on after he gets his new iPhone. Remember, Rick buys it, the new stuff specifically, so you don't have to buy it until he's tried it. Okay, he's taken one for the team. They've been doing it for several years. Okay. Once, twice. Did I miss anything else besides that?
Yes, I've talked to several of you. I'm trying to find someone who would help a graduate of Fairview learn how to do WordPress.
Okay.
And to basically maintain a website for Fairview, which some of you probably remember from years past before it was torn down.
So if there's anybody, I don't know if we've got any web creators in the group. Anybody do website maintenance in the group? Okay.
Well, all right.
Yeah, and you're over volunteered already.
What are they trying to do?
He's looking for someone to,
Well, there's already a web page there, and it was developed under WordPress, and he's trying to learn what he needs to do to take over maintenance of this web page for Fairview.
yeah. Send me an email, because there are some people who do training on that stuff.
There's a whole organization here called WordPress meetup every month. One of the first things I would do if I was that person, I'd do that, start one of those WordPress meetings.
Yeah.
Because they do it once a month, on the second Wednesday, I think. They have a web page, I can go in that direction.
Okay.
But that's what they do.
Okay, if you point to us, we'll point it to you. So there's an organization out there for WordPress. I'm thinking if your guy or gal went to their meetings, chances are it'd be a richer hunting ground for them to find somebody that could help them.
Right.
These are real experts. They're really okay.
Unless you guys want to just, at the break, get together and you send to him. You want to do that? Okay.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So, once again, we don't always have the answer, but sometimes we know about an organization or another group of people that would know the answer. With that in mind, I just want to mention, if you're into photography and you're into honing your skills, there's a local organization in the Miami Valley called the Tripod. They are absolutely excellent for people that want to up their skills. They run workshops, they have competitions, and they're just, I didn't want to have to support my wife when she started to get into photography. So I knew what to do, because I had her join Tripod, they ran her through a Photoshop Elements class, they explain about the different lenses in that, and at their meetings, they typically have relatively well-known photographers from the Miami Valley present their work, okay? It's a really nice club, reminds me a lot of a club I founded a couple years ago, and that they seem to be very open and welcoming. Okay, so anyway, I'm not pointing at anybody in particular, Rick, but you might be interested in seeing what Tripod's got. Okay, plus you'd be a resource for them. Okay, anything else in the way of news, going once, going twice? Okay, freebies, wanted, and for sale. Does anybody have any freebies they bought to the meeting?
Well, you mentioned three things.
Yeah, go ahead.
The ladder for sale.
Okay,
I have a couple of Bluetooth keyboard cases for iPads over there. One's the iPad mini,
okay,
and the other is for the larger 10.5 inch. I forget
Mhm.
exactly what size it is.
yeah.
But anyway, it's both working and fully charged up. I bought some new equipment, and so I had to get rid of those.
So they're excess to requirements. Your
Excess to my requirement, but they're working.
Okay. Okay, do you know what sort of price you want on them?
I have $5 written on them just simply because I can't use them at home. I've bought new
Okay.
replacements, and you can bargain with me.
Okay.
Of course, if you go down to 3, I'm allowed to say 6 instead of 5.
Okay. So at the break, if you're interested in either of those keyboard cases, see Elton, I assume they're Bluetooth?
Bluetooth, right?
Okay. See Elton at the break, he'll be over by the table to explain.
Did you mention there's new iPads?
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't mention that.
Right after I bought one.
There's new iPads.
I bought the iPad Mini 5.
Don't think iPad Pro, the big one. Don't think Mini, think the medium, the
Oh.
middle range.
Oh, that's the
New iPads, they lowered the price, the screen is larger than it was, not the case, but the screen is larger than it was. Increased the capabilities, basically all around, really, really nice thing, but the thing that surprised me was they lowered the price on it. So it's meant to be the entry-level iPad.
I
So
think
it's
they
not
call
got a
it the
10.2
Generation
inch
7.
Hmm?
I think they call it Gen 7.
Right, iPad Gen 7, you've got the iWatch 5 series. Did they lower the price on the 3s, or did they just keep the 3s? The Watch 3 series.
They lowered the price of the 3. It's down
They
to
lowered
$200.
Yeah, so that's the entry. So they're doing this variation within the product classes. And I keep thinking about the bad days when you had Quadras and LCs, and there were like 20 different models of Macintoshes, some of which were identical, and they had different names, and I hope they don't get that wild. I hope they don't get that wild, because that's a bad thing to do. That's something Microsoft does. Okay, so Elton has some items for sale. Dan,
Yeah. What?
do you have anything for sale?
Oh, yeah,
this
I've
month?
added some stuff to my bag here.
Oh, okay.
One of which is a Wemo smart switch for you smart home people. $20 for that. And then
Okay.
I still have a Series 1 watch.
Okay.
If anybody's interested, probably $50.
Okay.
Good deal.
Okay. Anything else? I
Yeah,
see
there's some
like
others.
4 items in the bag.
Yeah, there's some other stuff.
Okay, so if you're interested in seeing what Dan brought this month, see him at the break. All right, anybody else? Anybody else bring any items for sale? Nope. Okay. Anybody looking for something in particular? Going once, going twice? Everybody's got enough equipment? Everybody's good? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next item, the one that I dread every month.
The help desk.
Help desk. Okay.
Hey, Bill.
We're going to start with the back row.
Wait a minute, before you jump into this.
Oh,
Our program director, one of the things that we may be doing here in the coming months, give people opportunity to get up and talk about things they do with their computer. So users, you guys need to let us know if you want to share with everybody else.
Well, you know, one thing we could do, this is something that we did the second year the club was in existence. We would take 1 month, and that month meeting, everybody would talk about, and not a long talk, we're talking about 5-10 minutes tops, what you, some little tip or technique that you use that you don't think the other people know about and you think they might like to know. The following year, we changed it up a little bit, and what we did, because we ran out of time, there were so many people with things they wanted to show that we ran out of time. So the following year, what we did was we had tables, and everybody sat at a table, and you got to get up and just walk around and see what people were showing off. So either one of those models I'm okay with, but to do this, we have to have people who are willing to show some of their tips and tricks. Yes, Rick?
We had that down for December.
Okay.
So start planning now. We need to know if we have enough people to make this work. I mean, if we want to do it, and only one person has something they want to share, it might not be real productive. So, you know, my email address will be in the presentation today. You can email me, let me know you're interested. I'll start accumulating who wants to do it. But anything's on, you know, anything you want to talk about that's related to how you use your gear, we want to hear about it. I want to hear about it.
We had a fellow by the name of Kenko who belonged to the organization. And he said, I don't really have anything, blah, 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 you know, give me that typical song and dance. And one day I happened to be at his house, and I noticed he had all of these Post-it notes that were perfectly printed. And I went, wait a minute, is labels on things? I said, how do you do that? He said, oh, it's real simple. I got a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I have a little outline, and I put the Post-it note on it, and then I figure out what I want. I got a template, and I just type it, and then I run it through the inkjet printer, and I've got a perfectly printed Post-it note, and then I peel it off, you know, 3 on Post-it notes, pull it off, and put it on what I want. I said, that's ingenious. That's ingenious. And he thought it was nothing. Yeah. So those sorts of things are, you know, I know they're out there with you folks. So just sort of think about, you know, what are some of the things you do? It's like you could tell us stuff about dymo labeling. Okay, you got dymo labels that you use on a regular basis, the machinery. Yeah, Rita's frowning.
Well, I'd
at
like
me.
to hear
Yeah,
about
I'm not going to quite get it. I know some stuff you do that, Christmas ornament collections. And the software you use to do that. I've never seen that anywhere else. So, you know, all of you have something. You have a story to tell. You just need to sort of be open with yourselves and think about it and run it past Rick. Okay? All right. Did I do what you wanted? Okay, I got it. One thumb. Good. Okay, so back to help desk. This time I will go to the peanut gallery in the front.
Okay,
Do we
well,
want Elton or Ray or George first? Oh, we're pointing at Ray. Okay,
we're
Ray.
pointing to Ray?
Okay.
Okay, good.
So is this the stuff you handed me? Or is this other stuff?
Well, it's part of that, but a few months ago you mentioned a photograph or camera club or whatever it was.
Tripod.
And you were tripod, and you were talking about Elements. I'm using, I think, the latest issue of Elements, which is Elements 2019.
2020.
And I've been corresponding with them with
19,
some
yeah, you're
problems that are different than it used to be and
Yeah.
causing me problems. And I was with the eraser tool, and one guy has, well, you're probably using the brush. Wait a minute, I know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to have somebody that I could reach out to get the little answers I need.
Okay.
And is tripod a source?
Okay, hold on a second. Let me do this. Are you okay if I send you the contact information for the Tripod Club and you can put it in the mailing you send?
Yeah.
Okay, now
As long
remember,
as I
they're
get
an
it today.
autonomous organization.
The what?
Okay, they're an autonomous they're not associated with us. You know,
No, I know.
There's no financial ties.
Okay.
They run their show the way they run their show. Okay. The only financial dealings I had is I bought a used iMac for my dad from the guy who's their incoming president. Didn't know it at the time. We wondered why we sort of recognized each other. Anyway, but they might be, I'm thinking the guy that runs their Photoshop Elements class might be a good resource for you. Okay? Okay,
That
so
would
we'll
be-
do that.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, going on to Ray number 2, how many of you have had emails come in where all of a sudden all the text is like in a single line?
Yeah.
Okay. So that one, I gave Ray a snap answer, and I'm going to pull that snap answer back, and I'm going to play with this a little bit. Can you send me one of these when they come?
Sure.
Yeah, just forward it to me. Yeah. If you get one of these,
Yeah.
forward it to me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Unless it's got, credit card information or passwords, in which case send it twice. Because I always, I mess up with stuff.
It
The other
doesn't
one-
happen often, but it happens.
Hmm?
It doesn't happen often, and it sometimes comes from other people, not necessarily businesses or whatever.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, Ray. The thing that I've learned is when someone that I'm working with or for says it doesn't happen that often, it's not that big of a deal, I just wonder, then I go, this really is important to them, it's annoying them, it's irritating them, and life is too short for that, so I need to find out what the answer is.
Keyword, annoying.
Yeah, keyword annoying. Okay, so then the other one that Ray handed me was a dialog box that comes up and it says, Microsoft Excel wants to use your confidential information stored in Microsoft Identity, and then it goes on with this long alphanumeric, actually it's a hexadecimal identifier, in your keychain. Okay, now the first thing is it's showing a padlock, which is an Apple type symbol, and it's showing the Excel icon. So that's the Microsoft Excel program, for some reason thinks it needs to have access to the keychain. Invariably I'll tell it yes. It might be something as simple as it needs to have access to your contacts program, or it needs to have contact to your maps program, or it needs to have contact to something else. But typically I would say yes. Now, does it really need it? Maybe not.
I answer
You
no
just-
and have never had a problem.
You just brought up something that I'm having trouble with, and engineering with Apple can't figure it out.
Okay.
But suddenly, one day, I was looking at the groups in the
Contacts.
contact list.
Mhm.
And one, I had a special group, it started with a hashtag and so forth, and then I noticed all my groups were duplicated as much as 140 times,
Okay.
and they can't figure out why. And we got it cleared up, and yesterday morning, I turned on my computer and went into contacts, and suddenly they're all back.
Okay.
So they're trying to figure it out. I wonder if the fact that I might have said no to that.
No, that would not be it. That would not be it.
Sounds
Wait,
more like the
if we
same.
get an answer to this problem, because Apple doesn't know what anybody could have done to cause it, I'll let you know
All right.
in the future.
So, just be aware that more and more the programs we have on our computers, on our mobile devices, are doing something with the cloud. Okay, so let's say you have a contacts program. Your contacts program might be talking to not just the addresses and phone numbers you have on your local computer, but it may be looking at the contacts that your Facebook friends have. Because Facebook keeps a address book. And it might be looking at, if you use Google browser, and you have a Google account, it may be looking at that address book and the people that are up there. Same thing with Yahoo, same thing with AOL, same thing with Microsoft. And so sometimes what will happen is you have some devices that are like really, really old, that are running like the old stuff. Okay. You want to make sure that your older computers don't try and do the iCloud stuff.
I took them out of the loop.
Okay.
It's only the stuff that's no more than 5 years old.
Okay. But the main point I want to make sure is so that you don't get frustrated trying to change a phone number when that phone number isn't under your control. It's the phone number that somebody put in when they set up their Facebook account, and it's in your Facebook contacts. You can't change it. You can only look at it.
Bill,
Okay?
here's an example.
Not now.
Okay,
We'll do that at the break.
all right.
Because I got to run a tight ship today.
I think
because
we
got
should.
the wedding party coming in. Yes, ma'am.
I was moving on, is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wondered if anybody else had the error message that I did share with the help desk, and Mark wrote back and said, good for you that you didn't do anything about it. It's the first time I've had an error message from Apple that said to me that I had an irregular charge on my Apple account, and that in order to find out what it is and to verify that I had that charge, that I should click on the link.
Yeah.
I've not had that happen with Apple before, and I did not click on the link. I got out of it,
Smart.
and I went to
Smart.
my own Apple ID account and found there was nothing on my
Yep.
account. But it upset me because it was Apple, and I didn't expect that kind of a
And
message.
this is a normal reaction that you have. The only correction I'd like to make, gently, is it wasn't a dialog box. It was an email that came in.
Yes, it was an email. yes.
Okay. So, first concept to get straight in your head. I know this is going to hurt. Just, tense up for a minute. You'll get through the pain. Apple doesn't care about you. Okay. Here's the next one. Google doesn't care about you. Yahoo doesn't care about you. And hell no, Facebook doesn't give a damn about you. Okay. So whenever you get any sort of an email or a phone message, that's the kicker. When they call you, excuse me, these are high technology companies. You can't even find their phone numbers. Why would they be calling you? Okay. Chances are it's bogus. Now, I looked at that email and I went, wow, this was pretty close. They only had a few little grammatical
Yeah.
faux-pas that you wouldn't see in an Apple email.
Now, the other thing is, the reason you want to react is because I have identity theft programs on all my credit cards and my bank account. So it would not be unusual for them to say, there has been a charge on your account. And so you are somewhat conditioned to react to
Yes.
a message that comes through like, gee, your Amazon, your American Express card just got, $1,500 charged.
So the first thing that I do when I get one of these messages is instead of looking at the human email address they show up there,
Yeah.
which will say Apple Computer, I'll click on it and say, show me where it actually came from.
Good, good.
And typically it's going to be something like biolab123@yahoo.com or hotmail.com or whatever. And I go, I don't think Apple would be using somebody else's email to send me an email.
And that's a good thing to do, thank you.
Yes, that's a good thing to do.
Yes.
What is it that?
Click or
What
right
is it
click?
that you do? You click on the.
The from address.
It's a right click. You put your pointer on top of the email address. Yeah, it says, it's William Herrick sent you an email. And you go, oh, Bill, nice guy. Okay. Put your pointer on top of that and do a right click,
it's not
and it'll
right
show you the actual email address.
Any click.
Yeah.
Chances are it wasn't from me.
Won't match.
I do have a news article.
There is a way in Safari also to find a rule, once you find one of those addresses, to have it filter those out in the future. In the preferences, there's rules, and you can set up rules. If it ever sees that again, it automatically goes to trash.
I hear you. The thing is to make sure that your rule is not too detailed. So, for example, I don't do any business in Romania anymore. So I have a rule that anything coming from Romania goes right into junk. Anything coming from Georgia, not our Georgia, the other Georgia, goes right into junk. Anything from, there's a variety of different things that you can set up. But you want to be careful about that, because otherwise you get into the game of whack-a-mole. They change the address just a little bit and it starts appearing again.
Sure.
Okay. So you want to make sure.
It's not 100%
Yeah.
effective,
Yeah.
but it's a help, a big help for me. I mean,
Yeah.
I use
Yes,
it all the
Rod.
time.
Perhaps a basic question, but the lady got the email. What's the point that you don't want to go beyond? And that is, don't click on the link that they said. You can open the email itself,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
In other words, you can click on the email, it shows up on your screen.
Yep. If you're on a Mac.
On a Mac, that's
Yep.
what I got.
Yep.
You can look at it on the screen.
Yep.
The fatal error is to click on the link.
Yeah.
and Open it.
Yeah. So my rule of thumb is I don't click on links.
Open the email is fine to look and see what it
Yeah.
says, but after that, just
Yeah.
hold up. Please. Thank you.
Yes, George.
Okay, a little bit of background. My bank, right, Pat, is changing one of their rewards programs on a credit card. And they sent me a nice, with their letterhead, describing that. And directed me to go to the rewards program website and do my thing. Well, I've been to this website before, and I went to it this time, and advanced comes up and says, don't go there.
Yep.
They don't have a security certificate anymore, or they
Yep.
don't have a security certificate.
Yep.
And so now I'm kind of up in the air what to do, Should I just,
Okay. So the first question that comes into my head is, did you type in what they had in the letter, or did you do a search for it and then just hit take me there?
I think I went to my contacts and used the address, URL that was in my contact.
Okay.
They change the addresses when they do that.
Yeah.
So you have to not use their old address.
Yeah.
Some of them will say, you will be directed to the new address.
Yeah.
Some don't.
Yeah.
So you got to start from
So
scratch.
it could be that maybe the reason why they've got this new program and a new website is they've increased the security on the new website, and you're going to the old one, which may or may not be.
Well, I looked at all the ones that and they were identical. They seemed like they were the identical.
Sometimes
websites.
there's hidden characters.
Oh, hidden characters.
Hidden characters.
Okay.
They don't print, they don't show up on your screen, but they're in there.
Okay.
So what I recommend is, okay, you've gotten this piece of mail, U.S. mail, okay, not something slipped into the mailbox.
Yeah, U.S.
It actually had a stamp on it. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the other one. They put the envelopes in the mailboxes, but it didn't go to the postal service. Type in that website that they have on the letter, fresh,
Okay.
and then hit return.
Okay.
So don't go to an old, something that you saved somewhere.
Okay.
I had a customer who kept getting dinged by identity theft is the way to put it. And it turned out what it was he had saved in his favorites in his web browser a website which was a fraud website.
Oh.
So he thinks he's going to insert the bank. He's going to this thing, which is a phishing site. It looks like their site. It's not their site. And he couldn't figure out how he kept getting this same problem over and over again. Well, it's because he had saved a bad website in his favorites. You can't get, as we get older, it's hard to stay focused. I understand that on a personal level, but sometimes you just can't be lazy anymore. You gotta You gotta type that stuff in fresh. Hit return and see where it takes you. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
I know my email provider does have a specific email address that if you suspect there's some phishing going on, you can actually send it to them. So they can then investigate it and block it.
Yeah. In the past, Microsoft was sort of just blowing all this stuff off. They have become much more aggressive about going after people. And I think the reason they did that was they got so much good press when they went after those fraudsters in Vancouver that were calling up saying, this is Microsoft and we see there's a virus on your computer, they're actually protecting their brand and their name now. AOL used to have a link that you could send this stuff to. It's still there, but nobody's looking at it anymore.
No, where is it?
No, think about it. Okay.
Not
AOL got bought by Verizon, Yahoo got bought by Verizon, and then they did the right sizing.
Yeah.
Okay, you know.
No longer staffed.
Yeah, Ham and I are newsies. We worked for newspapers when they made money. And let me tell you, you know, the carnage in the newspaper industry, it's fully 1/3 of the people who were in the number of people who were in the industry in 2008 are gone now, and that was already after.
And the Dayton Daily News is about to be sold. Cox is trying to sell it to.
No, it's sold.
Totally sold. This was a new, like
Yeah.
a group that takes these newspapers.
Alex
and strips them.
Taylor, in his wisdom, didn't sell it. He traded them for equity in that holding company.
Oh, Lord God.
Yeah. There's a, you know, it's one thing if you work for a large company, multinational company, you know, an IBM or a McDonald's. It's something else if you work for a company that's owned by an international holding company.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Apollo Global Holdings, they own the radio stations and the papers, the ones that they hadn't already sold off. Anyway, we're here to do computers, and I'm supposed to keep a tight ship today.
And I have a
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
The one I asked before. When through an email,
Sure.
when I'm trying to put an event down, for say the Mac group, and I'll put an alert day before.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in that, and the second alert I'll put 15 or 1 hour before, and when it comes up, it reverses them. So the alert says 5 minutes before, and the second alert 15 minutes before I just did.
Okay.
It won't do it, and one of them won't work. I don't think. I mean, I'll go ahead and do it, seeing if they'll both work, but
Okay. So this is the calendar program.
calendar.
Okay, now remember, calendar is another one of these cloud applications. So settings that you have on your phone don't take precedence over the settings that are on the iCloud site where your calendars reside.
Okay.
And they don't take precedence over the settings in your iMac where your calendars also talk to the cloud. So sometimes what's necessary to do is to log into the iCloud website and fire up the calendar program that's up there. So you're using a web browser to go to iCloud.com and you're putting in your Apple ID and your Apple password, okay? And then when it comes up with a website and you've got these various programs you can run from up there, one of them is the calendar program, is to see what the settings are on that program that's up here in the cloud.
Oh.
Okay? Sometimes I had an issue that just was driving me crazy, and it turned out that my iCloud account was set for Pacific time, not for Eastern Standard Time. So every time I'm putting stuff in, it's saying, oh, you mean Pacific time. So I had to change that, and then things work correctly.
So I go to iCloud.com.
Fire up your web browser,
Yeah.
put in iCloud.com, hit return.
Yeah.
So that's ICLOUD.com.
No.
See, I type in iCloud.
Oh,
I drop it to you,
Okay.
and, okay. And then it's gonna come up with a window where it's gonna say,
Sign
put
in.
in your Apple ID,
okay.
and then put in your password.
And then I go to see the settings that might say, oh, no, you don't need to look at it. I mean, I'm just surprised that they would make the second alert the actual first alert.
All I'm saying is that strange things happen with these iCloud apps.
So
And
just go
one
in.
of the things I found makes things go better
Yeah.
is to make sure that iCloud account is set up correctly, that it's set for the time zone that you're normally in,
Yeah.
and that your settings for those applications up there are set appropriately, how you want them.
You can turn on sync as well, so it syncs all the devices with that same account.
Correct.
So
Yeah, but
it should reflect the same data in all of your devices.
do you think that it would say the first alert, I've got the settings, they say it's the second alert or second alert?
Well, what I found is that the order of the alert of those, you're talking about where it says, give me an alert like an hour before you have to leave and stuff like that. The order in which they're on it doesn't make any difference.
Oh,
To me, the timing will stay the same. So if I want to be alerted
Okay.
an hour before I leave, before I have to leave to get to someplace, it'll tell me an hour beforehand. If I say half an hour, if it's, that's doesn't
Yeah, it
matter
doesn't
where they
matter
are
where
in the
it is.
list, it'll still happen.
Well, I just think that, I just thought that one of them was missing, that, you know, I set it up and I was going to get one alert, but
I've had cases where 20 or 30 alerts will show up all of a sudden.
Okay.
What? I only need 2. Why do I have 30?
Right, that'll
Then
take care of it.
then you got to go one at a time and weed them out. It's
Okay, that'll take care of
very
it.
inconvenient.
Thank you.
Alternatively, the other way you can do it is, one of the computers I use for keeping my schedule,
Yeah.
okay, it's not on the internet. It's not connected to any cloud services.
That's right.
Yeah.
Disconnect.
Yeah, or you can use paper.
Anyway.
We had a troglodyte,
Well,
a dinosaur up here.
at my age, I'm doing several different
Yeah, the
things
the
at the
thing
same
is, the
time.
thing is, take a moment, take a breath, think about what it is that you want to do, and then figure out which one of these technological whiz-bangs helps you get there, and which ones don't seem to be helping you get there, and you throw the ones that don't work, you push them to the side, and stick with the stuff that gets you where you need to be and how you want to be.
Yeah, 2 of them doing, one is this.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want to contribute, Dan?
I just changed this topic, sort of.
Okay.
But I was talked into using Dropbox for some things as a cloud a number of years ago, and found it a good thing to do to be able to transfer some things around the family that they could go to the Dropbox and get information about family stuff, and throw in a few other things in that I wanted to move from one computer to the other. I got word that my free Dropbox is getting full, and they want to move me up to a terabyte and charge me. I don't want that. So I've been trying to delete things from there, and I keep getting the same message, that it's full, and apparently I've deleted it. I've removed it from where I can see it on Dropbox, but they still think I have it up there.
Okay. What I normally do is I start with my devices, and I tell Dropbox to be turned off and not try to synchronize with Dropbox. Then I use a web browser, very similar to what we were doing with iCloud. I use a web browser to log into Dropbox, log in with my Dropbox account and my Dropbox password, and delete the things that I don't want up there anymore directly there. So I have my web browser connecting me directly to the Dropbox server, and I'm removing the things from up there. Then I'll turn on one device, and I'll make sure the preferences are for the device to sync with what's up there and replace what's down here. And then I'll do the next one, and then I'll do the next one. And eventually I got to the point where I went, you know, I've got too many devices connected to Dropbox. So now I have a machine that does the Dropbox, it does the Google Drive, it does the OneDrive from Microsoft. That's all that computer does, is talk to these storage boxes that are up there. But I don't have any of my other devices doing it. I'm not saying that everyone should go that way, but I'm the man with too many computers. Too many computers. Okay, so it was necessary, the intervention was necessary in my case. Remember, sometimes when you wonder, why is Bill leading this group? It's because I'm the person you don't follow. I'm the one who's had all these bad experiences, that made all the bad decisions and survived. Okay, so that's the reason why you keep me. Because I survived and I can relate what not to do. All right, anybody else going once, going twice? Okay. Richard.
I also have a RightPad credit union issue. Each month they send a notice about how your e-statement is available. And typically I have for years now, used Safari as my web browser. And I log into the credit union account and I do all my banking and stuff through it. No problem. But when they send me this alert, it says, okay, your e-statement's available. I go into the credit union webpage and I go to the e-statements drop down and I click on it. If they have done a software update on their side within the last couple of months or so, I get an error state.
Okay.
Now I've talked to their so-called tech support on several occasions about this, and they walk me through all these things that have to do with cookies. Okay? Keeping cookies, you know, remembering cookies. And all my settings within preferences are set the way they tell me to set them. But I always get this error message, and every month I've got to go to Firefox or Chrome or some other browser, and then voila, boom, I get access to the e-statement, I can download it, all that stuff. So I'm just wondering what could be causing this, because I'd like to give them a clue and say, hey, are all your Apple users out there having this same problem? Because we can't, with Safari, access our e-statements, or is it just me? And how do I find that out?
Okay. Number one, you're thinking too much. You're putting too much upon you. The way I handle a situation like that is I go, okay, it's not playing well with Safari, and I suspect that's because Apple is upping their game with their security in Safari more than the other guys are. By the way, Google talking about all of those vulnerabilities that were in iOS, they were referring to version 4 versions ago. Okay, so they were blowing smoke. Anyway, so the way I respond to something like that is I go, okay, what web browser plays well with this website, this financial bank, all the time? Typically, it's going to either be Google Chrome or Firefox. And then I just use Google Chrome or Firefox to connect to that bank site. So if I'm doing something with Lebanon Citizens National Bank, I think I got that right, CN. I always want to make it LCBN, I don't know why. Anyway, if I'm doing something with them, I use Firefox, because I know Firefox will always work with them. If I'm doing something with a particular bank that happens to be in Europe, I use Opera, because I know Opera's a web browser. It will work with that bank. I almost never use Safari for financial institutions.
Dick, let me add something to that, because I use Safari, I go to the credit union, I download credit card statements. I've never had a problem with Safari.
Credit card statements or the e-statement that you get from the credit union each month that shows your account?
It's a monthly. I don't download those.
See, it doesn't make sense to me that everything else that I can do successfully through Safari on the credit union website, I can pay bills.
Yes.
I can move money around. I can take money out. I can put money in. I can do all this other stuff. But getting the e-statement, which is just a printout of what you used to get in the mail, it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, does it display it on your screen when it works properly, or does it download it to you? Send it to your computer?
The
When you're-
statement?
When you're doing the e-statement, are you just looking at it on the screen, or are you bringing it?
Well,
into
you
the
have the choice. You can download it as a PDF, or you can display it
Okay,
on the
but
screen.
either way,
through
it blows
Fire.
up.
When
in
it
Safari.
works, yeah, it's there, and I can get it, and then I can save it into my folders, or I can print it out, or I can balance my, my checkbook and all that kind of stuff without any problems.
So
But
almost always, it has to do with how are they handling
it's a
portable
particular
document formats.
Yeah, and it's a particular error code that has a number that goes with it, and they say, oh, that number means. I said, well, I'm set up the way I'm supposed to, so you got something wrong with your system.
Yeah.
I always put the burden on them, and in the past, it seemed like after 2 or 3 months, it would start working again.
Yeah.
And then they would do another one of these where they send you a message, we're going to be offline between
Yep.
midnight and 3 in the
Yep.
morning for maintenance, blah, blah. And then it doesn't work anymore. So they're not learning the lesson,
Yeah.
and it's been frustrating. So I just
Okay.
thought I would ask
So, think about this.
here.
Okay. You're an employer. You have an employee. They do okay for 3 months, and then they just aren't doing the job.
I'll try that.
And then you go ahead 3 months, then they're just not doing the job. But you find that if you don't talk to them first thing in the morning, if you talk to them just before they get their lunch, then everything goes right for them. They follow the instruction, they do what you want. What you do then is you modify your behavior, because you know you can't change
Well, I
those.
have. I'm doing workarounds by using other browsers, but I
Yes.
still prefer to use Safari because that's
Pick
my
one
investment.
browser and say to yourself, okay, this is the browser I'm going to use for financials.
Yeah.
My personal choice would be right now Firefox.
Well, my choice has been Safari for a long time.
Yeah.
I go to my investment sites with Safari.
Yeah.
I've never had any problem there, getting statements or anything else. There's this one kind of outlier that I can't.
Welcome to Firefox.
Okay.
My
Shut
wife
up.
uses
Suggestion.
Firefox.
Try it in a private browsing window. If it doesn't work in a private browsing window, then you know that doesn't work with Safari. It's the easiest way to figure it out. If it works in a private browsing window, then I always just open a private browsing window to do my
How
transactions.
do I do that?
In the file menu, you have a choice to open a new window or a new private browsing window. Private browsing avoids all your settings in Safari, and typically for me, that works.
Avoids all the settings, so all of
Yes.
those cookie settings are not going to
Right,
be
are
in
not gonna
place.
affect it, correct.
So that shouldn't fix it. From
Well,
what they're telling me.
But it
I'll try
might,
it.
because you're not sure if what they're telling you is correct.
Yeah, I'll try.
So,
So
it works for me.
So instead of going to open, you go
You
to,
go oh, private browsing window.
oh, I didn't
So,
even know it was
instead-
there.
Yep, under file, you have two choices.
Okay.
Just, are you thinking it's a persistent cookie? In other words, they have a new cookie they're trying to push out, and it sees there's already one there that may be
Right.
malformed or not, and so the old one stays there and it
And
doesn't.
even
go.
clearing cookies sometimes doesn't fix it, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, a private browsing window works.
Okay.
Anytime I've had those issues.
Yes, sir. Okay, it is 10:55. We are going to table other questions, help desk questions. We're going to do the raffle, and then we're going to have a short intermission, and then we're going to get on to Rick's presentation.
version and the last version of the Apple Watch. Prior to that, you couldn't swim with it, but you could splash water on it. 4 meters?
Most of the time it's 3 to 5 meters, and that's 9 to 15. That's 9 to 15 feet.
But it does work. I've had it in water. Tim Cook boasts all the time that he takes his showers with his Apple Watch on. I've never done that, but yeah.
It doesn't do blood pressure, does it?
No, but we're going to talk about blood pressure now.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't do blood pressure, it doesn't do blood sugar, glucose, but we're going to talk about both of those today. I think they're going to get there on the glucose, but I don't know how they're going to solve the blood pressure, but they're working on it. I know they are. Blood pressure.
Most weeks I spend several hours mowing grass, so I'm on mowers and tractors and stuff, and if I don't leave my watch and iPhone at the house, all this gets distorted because the accelerometers are picking up
all the vibrations.
Movements and things that are not related to, activity for me.
That's true. That's very true.
So there are ways it can get fooled.
Yeah, it can be fooled in those ways. But anyway, that's the activity thing. I love it because I find it very, very helpful to my health. Yes.
Do you have to tell it that you're going to exercise?
It will auto start an exercise, so if I go for a walk, it'll try to auto start, but it's not perfect. I always tell it. I go into the app and I say, I'm going to start an exercise, and I'm going to do a walk or a hike.
I'm assuming then the information that comes with the watch or the iPhone tells you what the criteria, there are certain criteria.
They have a long list of activities, so you can pick, you know what a walk is. So you can pick a walk. You can just pick it, it's right there in the list. Or you can pick a hike if you think you're going to be in the woods. She's going to show you what it looks
They
like.
even have the bicycling.
Bicycling's in there, badminton, tennis. There's a whole lot of
And then
stuff.
if you can't find one that has another button, so you can press the other button on the track button.
All right, we're going to move on. We'll get back to that slide in a minute. The other thing I use the watch for is I count steps. Now, the activity app will count steps. So you can look inside the activity app and see steps. But I wanted to write on the screen. I wanted to write on the screen because I wanted to be able to see how many steps I walked today. And I'm going to talk about this right next here a bit. So I can look at here, I can see this day I was at 38.65, that was sometime in the morning. And I try to get 10,000 steps a day. But my mind's kind of changing on this. I'm going to use a Fitbit.
Thank you.
Does anybody remember when the Fitbit tracker first came out? 2012, 2013. I had a Fitbit tracker, and I used it a lot. And I want to talk about that in a second, but first I want to talk about workouts. There's a whole list, this is what she was just showing you, there's a whole list of different types of workouts you can do. There's a strength training workout, so if you're going to lift weights, you can track that. There's all those other things in the list of all these different types of workouts you can do. I usually go in and tell it ahead of time what I'm going to do. I don't let it try to auto figure it out. And then it'll track it, monitor it, and when I'm done, I click finish, and it records that information and tells you how many calories you burned during the workout, what you did, and it stores it. So I've got years worth of data in there now that's stored, and that's really important data to me. I don't want to lose that data because I know I can look back at any workout over the last 3 years and see what I did. This little dog has not got his Apple Watch on, but I thought that was the coolest picture. There's other workout apps that do a really great job. You might want to look at some of these. They're not all free. This one's free for the base usage. I use this one primarily for biking. It does an amazing job of logging my bike rides. So if you're a biker or a runner, they're analyzing the data. Their analytics are really, really good. So I love the app. This is a ride I took last Saturday. And so you get, if you do a bike or a run inside the activity app, the workout app rather, it'll log a map and show you where you've been and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't do these really cool graphs. And I'm an engineer by trade. And its ability, they show you your speed, and they overlay it with the elevation, so you can see were you going slower when you were going uphill, those kinds of things. They do a really great job of showing you what your total elevation gain was, your average power, how long you were moving, what your average speed was. I really love how they do this. And so I use this app for things like biking. If I was a runner, I would probably use it for running. You can share data with friends, which it does a really great job at that. And it's a great app. And it is free unless you want to use some of the added features, and I don't use those. So I use this app for free. This is another app for workouts. I know the developer that wrote this app. The only reason it's on my iPhone is because I know this guy. His name's David Smith. He creates a lot of really cool apps. And this app, you can customize the screens a lot. And I really like that part of it. But I just found that it's not as powerful as the previous one. So I don't use it all the time. But I just wanted to mention it because he's such a great guy. And he also wrote this app, Pedometer Plus Plus, which is the one I had in the corner of the screen. It tells how many steps I took a particular day. And he's added all kinds of self-competing things. Like this month I'm supposed to walk 85 miles, which I'm almost there. And it's just kind of fun, but I'm not sure I'm going to continue using the app. I'm going to show you why. This is it right here. Steps versus calories. This is the big paradigm shift that Apple did back in 2015 that I have been thinking about so much lately. When I bought that initial Fitbit back in 2012, 2013, I had that thing in my pocket everywhere I went. I mean, I took that thing everywhere. It went to the laundry a few times. But I love that little thing. It was a small little clip-on. I learned about it at Macworld. I thought, well, this is a great little thing. It'll help motivate me to walk. And it did that. I walked a lot. And the way they did it was they logged how many times you took steps. And you shared that with a friend. You could compete with friends. And it was really motivational. And I walked a lot of steps with those things in my pocket. But they used steps as a proxy for calories because all they could measure was steps. And they also measured sleep, you know, how much time were you actually asleep. But its primary thing was measuring steps. And I used it for a couple years. I fell in love with it. And then when I got the first watch, they didn't have steps on there. I mean, not in a way that's easy to find. And at the time, Apple didn't have the ability to count steps in the phone. So I was kind of at a loss. I thought, well, what am I going to do? And so I went out and found an app as soon as somebody had one that would measure steps. So I could use steps again because I was totally bought into this idea of measuring steps. But what Apple had done, and I didn't recognize it at first, but I've come over the years to recognize it, is they moved to this new paradigm where why measure steps when we can actually measure how many calories you burn? Now again, they're calculating calories based on a whole bunch of factors, movement, heart rate, all kinds of other things, and they do all these research activities to figure it out. But they measure calories and they display calories, while these guys measure steps and calculate. Don't even calculate calories, they just tell you how many steps you do. The reality is, our bodies don't think in steps, they think in calories. So, you know, whether they're more accurate or not, when you eat a piece of pecan pie that's 503 calories, you can't outrun your fork, people. So it's all about burning that 503 calories or whatever it is you want to think about it. It isn't about all these other things, it's about burning calories. And so, is it more accurate to measure calories and to talk about calories? Probably is. I'm starting to shift my thinking about this a lot. In fact, I keep telling my son, I'm taking the step count thing off my watch. I mean, it's right there in front of me right now. I can see how many steps I've taken today. But I'm going to take it off because it really doesn't matter. What I really care about, how many calories did I burn today? How many calories did I burn yesterday? So you'll have to hold me to that and see if I get rid of it the next month because I keep telling you I'm going to get rid of it. All right, that's my speech for the day. Now we're going to get back to other health devices. I want to talk about some of the other devices that aren't necessarily built by Apple, but Apple helps make this available in a way that to me makes sense. And it's gear that I find really important. The first thing I want to mention is I use a lot of stuff by this company called Withings. And they have a lot of health tools that I like. And the first few I'm going to show you are from Withings. And so they have a web page. This is their web page. It's Withings. And so you can Google it. You can find it. But that's where we're going to start. So the first one is a blood pressure cuff. We talked a little bit about this a few minutes ago, the blood pressure cuff. I have a blood pressure cuff. I have had high blood pressure before losing some weight. I had very high blood pressure at one time. So I measure my blood pressure every morning religiously. And I use this cuff to do that. So it'll actually work with multiple people. So my wife uses it too. So if she's using it, it logs into her phone and stores the data. If I use it, it stores it on my phone. But it works with the app that's in the phone, and that's a picture of the app. It logs your blood pressure. It records it at the same time. It measures your heart rate. It stores all that information. You can graph it over time. I've shown it to my doctor many times when I was trying to get off the meds, as well as when I was trying to get my blood pressure resolved. So, to me, this is priceless. Blood pressure is such an important health measure. There are other tools on the market that measure blood pressure that integrate with the phone. There are versions that don't integrate with the phone. Sorry, I keep getting in your way. So I would just recommend that if you have any blood pressure issues at all, look at some of the ones that are on the market. Check them out. Apple, I think, even has one in their store. But this is the one I use, and it's from Withings. They have a couple different versions at a couple different price points. I like this one, and I've used their blood pressure cuffs, 2 different versions over for the last 5 years, I think, 6 years. So it works really good. The next one I use from them is a body composition Wi-Fi scale. That's a lot of ways of saying it's a scale, and I want to say a few things about this. First of all, it does a really good job of measuring weight. If you stand on the scale, this is my weight, by the way, this year, and since March 1st, and so I really have enjoyed this. But the app does a great job of logging weight and recording weight, graphing the results. Shared it with the doctor. He can see it, but I have to take it and do that because it's not quite up to sharing electronically. So it also measures body fat. Now, I am not going to stand here and tell you that I think that's real accurate. I think directionally, it's relatively directional, so I know my body fat's gone down about 50%. But I can't tell you that it's exact. So if you go get a scan with a CT scan or something to measure body fat, you're going to get a real accurate number. And I don't think it's going to be the same number this thing gives you. It uses bioimpedance, and you go in there with bare feet, and you stand on the scale with your bare feet, and it measures your body fat that way and gives you a number. But I get a certain, it varies every day by 20% depending on how much hydration I've had, because it's not perfect. But it's kind of cool. It also displays what your BMI is, which you may want to hit it a few times, but it displays your BMI as well. So it gives you all those readings. It also tries to measure CO2 in the air and give you that reading every day. So how accurate that is, I'm not sure, but it does do that as well. I find this very useful because I don't think everybody should weigh themselves every day. In fact, I don't think you should weigh yourself every day. But you can weigh yourself and get an accurate measure and understand what's going on with your weight. And it works really well. This is a weight tracker app. If you don't have a scale that's connected, or even if you do, this app will monitor your weight. This app, you can log your weight, set some goals. It's another developer friend of mine. He lives here in town. And it's interesting the way he's put this together. Next thing I want to show you real quick, and I'll pass this one around, I think. This is a body temperature thermometer. The way you do this is you punch the button and get it to connect, and then you just run it across your forehead, and then it'll display on here the temperature, and then it logs it right into the phone. So it's kind of cool. I use it more on my grandkids than I do myself. When they've been over, we've used it a few times, but it's interesting. So I think it's very accurate. I mean, I've checked the number. It's always very accurate. But see when it logs in, I was 98.4, 98.9, 1 minute apart. So you get a little variation, but it worked really well. So the Withings app has a dashboard. The dashboard, this is the dashboard for this particular day. My body temperature was 98.9. My blood pressure was 121/71. My heart rate was 58. I do this every morning, so I get pretty good numbers. my weight was 181.4 that day. So you get all those numbers. So I like the dashboard. I don't use this dashboard as much as I use the health app, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But you get the idea. All right, sleep. I hope you aren't doing this. Not good for your Mac. So sleep is so important. It's as important as anything else we've talked about today. I used to prescribe this thing, why do I need to sleep? Because I always felt like sleep was such a waste. And for years while I was working, I was lucky to sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. That was probably the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. Sleep is vital. And it's really so important. I've come to realize that, but I don't know why I had to retire to realize that. But sleep is important. So what's that got to do with tech? I use my Apple Watch to monitor my sleep. It's probably not super accurate, but it gives me a really good feel for how I'm sleeping. There are other sleep trackers on the market, but I use this app called Sleep++, also written by one of my friends, the developer. And this thing logs every night. I don't have to tell it when to start monitoring or when to stop. It just automatically records when I'm sleeping. And then you can look at this, and you probably can't see it from back there, but it tells you when you have your deepest sleep. Like right here, I have really, really deep sleep. It tells you when I was moving around, so I wasn't sleeping really good right here. It tells me how much restful sleep. I try to sleep 7 to 8 hours every night. I like to get 8 hours every night, but my body just will not do it. But I'm trying. Getting better. It's from all those years of not sleeping. So I get a record of all that sleep, and I track it every night. And it happens automatically. I sleep with a watch on every night, which means you got to think about when you charge your watch. But if you can figure out how to do that, I used to charge it when I was driving to work, because I drove an hour each way. But you just have to, maybe when you're taking a shower or whatever, and if you wear your watch at night, this app does a great job. There are other tools on the market that you put on your bed, put in your bed. They all work great, but this is the way I do it.
How long does it take to charge your watch?
My watch, I can charge at an hour, depends on how low I let it go. I usually charge an hour and a half for my Series 4. My Series 2 seems to charge a little faster. I don't think the battery's as big. But I have 2 watches. I have Series 2 that I don't use anymore, but I do use it sometimes for this.
Daily?
Yeah, I want to charge
it daily?
I charge it every day. It doesn't have to be charged every day, but it wouldn't go the next day completely. I'm usually, when I go to bed at night, it's about 50% to 40%. So I could let that go, but I go ahead and charge it out. Okay, metabolic health. I just want to, this is not going to be Withings, this is something else. But your metabolic health is really important to understand. This is probably my key learning this summer, this fall, and this spring and summer, as I was trying to lose some weight, get healthier, is the importance of your metabolic health. I was diabetic. I mean, I didn't know it, but I was basically diabetic. My A1C was 6.5. My fasting glucose was over 140, so I had a problem. The doctor basically told me, says, if you don't fix this, we're putting you on insulin. Freaked me out. So I bought one of these glucose meters. I love this thing. I still use it, even though my fasted glucose now runs around 65 to 75, but it's always good. It's always below 80, almost always. Once in a while I'll get above 80 if I eat a lot of food, if I overeat or something. But it has an app that goes with it. This particular day it was 77. You know, if you have any issues at all with your metabolic health and these kind of issues, this is a tool that's not really expensive. The most expensive thing is the strips you have to buy to measure every day. And the strips, and if you've done this, you know what I'm talking about. This seems to be, I shopped for a glucose meter by which one had the cheapest strips. This one had the best price on strips. And so I think I buy 50 strips for like $20, $25. So they're about 50 cents a strip. So it works really well. It graphs, it stores the data on my phone, and it puts it in the health app so it's all one place. It allows me to show the doctors, stuff like that. So how do I bring all this together? This is kind of wrapping up. I use the health app that Apple provides, because all these things can be a data source into the health app. So I can take all the data from everything I've showed you and bring it all together in one place, and that's right here. So this is just a bunch of examples, and you'll get this in your email today, so if you can't see it, you'll be able to zoom in on it. in a PDF. So this is what the data looks like when you're just looking at the screen. I can zoom in, for example, on my activity, how many exercise minutes that I have that day, how many stand hours, how many steps that I have, what was my VO2 max. Apple calculates VO2 max. This is not an official VO2 max, but it does seem to reflect where I'm at. I cycled that day 21 miles. I burned 840 calories. Get the idea. It's all there. You can scroll up and down. There's even more that I'm not showing here. On the mindfulness exercise, are you spending any time? You can get some separate apps to actually spend your meditating time and record that. I do some meditation, but I don't log it in here in any of these apps, just because I haven't figured out how I want to use it yet. Nutrition. So if I was logging, I do log water. This day I was at 105 ounces when I did this slide. That's all recorded in here. I can look back over the last, however long I've been drinking water, 6 months. And then sleep, that's logged. So that particular night I slept 8 hours and 11 minutes. That was a really good night.
Sure.
So, party. So you get the idea. All this information can be logged. The glucose is all logged in here. Everything I do health-wise is logged into the health app. So I can look at it and actually see what the data is. Health records. There is a capability inside the health app, and some people are really nervous about this, but I'm going to show you anyway, to log your records from your your doctor. So not every institution is in here. So for example, Kettering is not in here. So my physician is in the Kettering network, so I can't pull the data in yet. But I want to do this. It says the Premier is in here. So you can grab the Premier data and pull it into here and be comfortable with that. What's cool about that is if you have that, all your blood test results can be pulled in, your test results from your physical or wellness exam or whatever your doctor calls it. It can all be pulled in here. You can have access to it right inside the app. There is a lot of concern about making sure you're HIPAA compliant and that your data is secure. It's encrypted, and it's encrypted in here too. But it is something you want to think about before you just blindly go into doing it, because it is data that's really important. I get really nervous when insurance companies want access to the data. And so you just have to think about all this kind of stuff. This slide shows this is the first screen of providers that are hooked up to the system. So LabCorp for my blood test, which do my blood test, but they go into Kettering. Then various hospitals, but right now Kettering's not there yet. And I don't know if they will anytime soon. Test records, so you can have access to your test records this way. I have to manually put mine in because they can't transport across right now. But you can add those if you want to manually, or you can hook it up through the link I just showed you. That's it. We did it. I want to answer any questions and anything you want to know about that I didn't cover, because there are things I didn't get to. I think there's still donuts over there if after that you want a donut.
Donuts. 400 calories.
I want you to log it immediately when you eat it. Log your donuts. I want it in there. So any questions? I can answer. We'll try to finish here a little early.